It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, or at least it seemed that way, when Jason's life was irrevocably altered. The kind of day where the hours blend together, and yet, a single moment can shatter everything. Jason, a diligent manager at a mid-sized tech firm, had been running on fumes. The relentless pressure of deadlines, countless meetings, and never-ending emails had worn him thin. He hadn't truly caught his breath in what felt like weeks. So, for the first time in forever, he decided to take a longer lunch break, a fleeting act of rebellion, an attempt to recapture a piece of his sanity, though little did he know it would be the decision that tore apart the very foundation of his life. Jason was a creature of habit, a man who valued routine above all else. Every day, without fail, he ate lunch at the same deli, a few steps from his office. But on that day, something stirred in him, a desire to break free from the monotony, to seek out a fleeting moment of comfort. So he drove across town, all the way to a quaint little cafe he and his wife, Amanda, used to frequent during the early days of their romance. It had been years since they last visited, yet the memories lingered in the back of his mind. He entered the cafe, greeted by the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee and the warmth of baked goods, the aroma so inviting it almost made him smile. He took a seat by the window, tucked into a quiet corner of the room. A sandwich was ordered, and Jason pulled out his phone to catch up on emails, his eyes skimming the screen while the soft murmur of conversations buzzed in the background. As he absent-mindedly glanced out the window, watching the world go by, he felt the faintest sense of peace, and then he saw her. His breath caught in his throat as his mind tried to reconcile the impossible. Amanda was there, standing on the sidewalk, holding hands with another man. Her laughter, a sound that had once been a source of comfort, now felt like a blade cutting through his chest. Jason blinked, convinced his mind was playing tricks on him. She was supposed to be miles away at work, yet there she was, smiling with a stranger, sharing an intimacy he hadn't felt in years. They paused just outside the cafe, their faces close, their connection palpable. Jason's heart hammered in his chest, his body frozen in place, his mind scrambling to process what he was seeing. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They entered a boutique across the street, and Jason, consumed by a mixture of disbelief and growing suspicion, couldn't let it go. He stood, paid for his meal, and followed them out into the crisp afternoon air, trying to keep his distance, though his mind raced with 1,000 questions. Who was this man? What was Amanda doing with him? Why was she here, of all places? Jason trailed them quietly through the boutique, each step heavier than the last. Amanda picked out clothes, modeling them for the man who looked at her with an adoration that made Jason's stomach turn. They appeared to be in their own world, a couple in love, oblivious to anyone else. His chest tightened with every passing moment, a knot of dread growing tighter with each second. When they finally left the boutique, they walked toward a nearby hotel, and Jason's heart sank into his stomach. They entered together, without a glance back, sealing the painful truth Jason had already known, though he had never wanted to face it. His wife, his beloved Amanda, was having an affair. Jason's mind was spinning, his emotions a chaotic storm of anger, betrayal, confusion, and an overwhelming sadness that threatened to drown him. He knew what he had to do, confront her, but not now, not here. He needed a plan. That evening, Jason returned home, his heart heavy, his steps weighed down by the gravity of the day. Amanda was already there, as if nothing had changed, greeting him with a smile and a kiss on the cheek. It felt surreal, as if he had stepped into an alternate reality where everything was normal on the surface, but the truth loomed just beneath. "How was your day?" she asked, her voice light, cheerful. Jason forced a smile, his mind in a whirlwind. "Fine, busy as usual," he replied, his tone even, though every word felt like a lie. They sat down to dinner, engaging in their usual small talk, Amanda unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Jason marveled at how easily she carried on, how she seemed so composed, so unaffected by the devastating truth that he was now living with. For the next few weeks, Jason waged a silent war within himself, torn between confronting Amanda immediately and gathering more evidence. He opted for the latter, watching her closely, searching for any further signs that might confirm what he already knew. It wasn't long before his suspicions grew. Amanda began staying late at the office, taking unplanned trips, and becoming increasingly secretive about her phone. Jason's unease turned to certainty. He hired a private investigator, determined to gather irrefutable proof of her betrayal. Days turned into weeks, each one dragging on with excruciating slowness. But when the investigator finally delivered the report, it was everything Jason had feared and more. The photos, timestamps, and detailed notes left no room for doubt. Amanda had been seeing a man named David for months. Their meetings, their stolen moments, and the secret getaways they shared, it was all laid out before him. Jason spent the night in agony, poring over the evidence, his heart shattered over the life he thought he knew. Every ounce of trust he had in Amanda had been erased, replaced by the cold, unforgiving truth. But amid the pain, clarity began to emerge. He knew what he had to do. The next morning, Jason sat Amanda down at the kitchen table, his face worn and tired from the sleepless night. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. Amanda's expression shifted, concern flickering in her eyes. "What's wrong?" she asked, unaware of the storm raging inside him. Jason slid the investigator's report across the table. "This," he said simply. Amanda's face drained of color as she opened the folder. Her hands trembled as she took in the damning evidence. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Jason, I can explain," she stammered, her voice breaking. Jason held up a hand, silencing her. "Don't," he said quietly. "I've seen enough. I just want to know why." Her shoulders slumped, her gaze falling to her hands. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." Jason's heart ached at her words, but he held firm, the pain hardening his resolve. "I trusted you, Amanda. We built a life together. How could you throw it all away?" Tears streamed down her face as she searched for words, but none came. The silence between them was deafening. The days that followed were a blur of raw emotions. Jason moved out, unable to stay in the house that now felt like a tomb of shattered dreams. He filed for divorce, the decision both final and devastating. Amanda reached out again and again, begging for forgiveness, but Jason knew it was over. The love they had once shared was now poisoned by betrayal, and there was no going back. As time passed, Jason began the slow process of rebuilding his life. He poured himself into his work, found solace in the company of friends and family, and took up new hobbies. Each step forward, though small, felt like a victory. One afternoon, while walking through the park, he saw a family laughing together, their joy contagious. For the first time in months, Jason felt a glimmer of hope. The pain was still there, but it no longer consumed him. He realized that despite the heartache, life could go on. And with that realization, he took his first step toward healing, ready to embrace the possibilities of the future, whatever they may hold. Jason's journey had been one of pain, betrayal, and heartbreak, but it was also a journey of resilience. In the end, he had faced the darkest moments of his life and emerged stronger, a man who had rediscovered himself, ready to face the unknown with hope in his heart.